40 years ago, on January 16, 1986, Apple released the Macintosh Plus. This is my absolute favorite in my old computer collection. There's no question in my mind whatsoever. Many of my friends in the vintage Mac community don't share my enthusiasm for the Plus, and it's all good. Over this video, I'll go over as to why we probably are both right. Where you're coming from matters a lot here, but let's start with the perspective of someone who doesn't already own an old Mac. When they are listed in the used market, they seldom come without a keyboard or a mouse. The keyboard connects with this 4P4C cable that only looks like the one used between an old wire telephone and its headset. But warning, it's not exactly the same, and if you do use the wrong one, you'll ruin the keyboard. This has doomed a lot of keyboards permanently. It's this tidbit of information that's just complex enough to remain unknown by a number of resellers of those Macs. As for the mouse, it used a serial connector that was only good for the first 3 Macs from Apple and was soon changed to the vastly more used Apple desktop bus ones known as ADB. All those reasons explain why you're likely not going to have a turnkey experience when you buy a Mac Plus. In the vintage Mac community, the Plus rarely ranks in people's top 3 Macs. After all, why wouldn't you prefer the Mac SE released just a year after in 1987? People say the SE gives you more bang for your buck, despite having the same CPU and same RAM ceiling. It has a processor direct slot, internal SCSI port, and slightly faster RAM. The keyboard and mouse connectors are ADB, which opens up an endless supply for them. If you reach for the FDHD variant, you get this sweet spot for 1.44 meg discs instead of being capped at low density 800K discs like the Plus has. And if money is less of an object, then why not prefer the SE30? It has a much more powerful 16 MHz 68030 processor and access to way more RAM if you give it a proper 32-bit compatible ROM. That ought to cover every single one of your late 80s and early 90s needs when programs started to become more complex and flex out a lot more in System 7's multitasking environment. If your nostalgia is centered around the 90s and using Mac software with color, then you're probably looking to recreate that experience with an LC class machine or a Quadra or a CD-ROM era Macintosh at the tail end of the 68K Apple era. Those are all good arguments, and I'm not here to dismiss them. All I can do is talk about my own perspective, not less, not more. In the first half of the 80s, a lot of households didn't have a family computer at all. Those that did seemed to fall into 2 camps. A cheap one that the kids could learn on, like the Commodore 64, or an expensive one meant for business, like an IBM XT class machine. My older cousins were lucky to have both of these very early on, and I was so excited to try them out as often as I could when we were visiting them. Meanwhile, my father had a financial downturn as he was led to declare bankruptcy and tried to bounce back as a freelance worker. The planets aligned somewhere, somehow, and he decided to try out the Mac 512 for a few weeks. He took it back to the store and plunged headfirst into the world of the expensive Macintosh Plus, released on January 16, 1986. I don't remember that he got a special deal on it, seeing as it was brand new. Apple was full of promise in those days, but that promise came with a price tag. That cost didn't seem to faze my father at all. He chose that path instead of being frugal and go with the default business computer that was the IBM ecosystem and clones during those days. As for me, I didn't gain the computing skills for command line interfaces at first like some of my friends. I went straight to mouse-driven GUIs. I didn't use it for schoolwork until a few years later. Instead, I went straight to Mac Paint, Studio Session, MS Basic 2.0, but most of all, every game that I could land my hands on. Every time the Computer Chronicles was on, I was riveted to the screen to get any news of new Mac Plus compatible games. I was often frustrated because the focus was so often for IBM compatible PCs or Amigas or whatever else. There were a few episodes, though, really. Absolutely on point.
Fantasy is what I would call it. The real objective that we had in designing Apache Strike was to get a real good action feel and really get your pulse pounding.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get my pulse pounding here.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start it up. I'm going to start on level 20, where there's quite a bit of action.
What's happening here?
All systems go.
I'm flying the helicopter now using the mouse, and that's one of the enemy helicopters.
The same machine that entered our house in 1986, well, I still have it. It only has 2.5 megs of RAM out of the possible 4. It now has an external Blue SCSI V2 for storage, which gives it Wi-Fi access, CD-ROM emulation. It has an optical mouse from Javier's 8-bit stuff, so that I can keep my regular ones out of commission. In fact, I was keen on having this class of Mac working for a long time, so I bought a second one as a security, a Platinum version around 2005. That one has the full 4 megabytes of memory. I'm powering that one for day-to-day occasional hobby usage and keep my relic safe. It's still an amazing, reliable workhorse. Sure, it doesn't have a fan, so it's prone to heat issues for some capacitors. Sure, the reefer cap near the power connection is a must-do maintenance unless you want a bad smell one day. And you really should go over the solder points of those J-cable sockets on both the analog and logic boards. Those are all easy, minor, and well-documented maintenance, with plenty of people to guide you along, even if it's your first steps in soldering. But the Alps switches of the keyboard, when you can get one, is just something truly special. It doesn't matter that the CPU and RAM combo is at worst 5 to 10% slower than an SE. The games I care about were designed for a Plus anyway. The best environment for those machines is a single task, not multitask, System 6 or lower. It gives full attention to the single program that's running. It doesn't get interruptions from system messages. It lets the sound driver be the inefficient CPU-hungry beast it wants to be, carefully tuned up by the developers of a game. So, why is the Mac Plus really my favorite? My simple answer is that it came at the right moment in my formative years. I'm like most people in that the deepest nostalgia develops around 10, give or take 4 years. But that only explains the surface level of it. It's about me as an end user of a vintage computer that has fun going through the quirky motions of slow black and white interfaces. It's me running other people's applications and games and remembering where it all started. That's all good, don't get me wrong, but it's just nostalgia 101. On a deeper level, programming is a hobby of mine. Retro programming is a niche of that. I like having something of a challenge in developing new software for the Mac Plus. I like figuring out a memory map, the device ports, the CPU instructions, the background system activity. I like learning enough of a computer so that I can have the chops to create a game for it. The Mac Plus's 68,000 CPU is plenty deep enough to be up to the task without being overwhelming. The monochrome high-resolution screen demands a certain type of sophisticated design compared to other 80s computers. It doesn't distract you with the task of dealing with color theory. As for my friends' concerns about the availability of peripherals, they remain, but there are varied solutions for them. You can enter the hunt for original devices, buy cheap adapters, or even buy expensive adapters. These hurdles are solved once, and then you're done. Let's be honest though, you're already mentally preparing for hurdles if you want to run a 40-year-old computer anyway. What's a few more steps in the long list of things you'll have to do for the fun of it all? I'm not the one who's gonna stop you from getting a Mac SE. I'm only here to tell you to consider the Plus. It's plenty okay if it's the first option that turns up when you are shopping for a classic Mac. In conclusion, it feels like with the help of the community, one can go pretty far at figuring this out. It doesn't break often, and when it does, it's a well-documented fix. It's simple. It's iconic. Happy 40th, Macintosh Plus, and here's to 40 more. If it would please you, by all means, let me know what the Plus has meant to you, regardless of when it entered your life. While I still have your attention, I recommend checking out this stream where I worked on a full-screen image in Mac Paint running on my Plus. I wanted to create an image to spread around during the 2025 edition of Macintosh. This file ended up in many people's hard disks across the world. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.